God wants to bless you with an unusual blessing and good things pressed down and running over. This is what God is set to do for you in this season. Stir up your mind, believe it, and you shall be a partaker of this usual flow of abundance, of blessing from God. If you do not believe, you might see it, but would not be part of those enjoying it. Therefore, believe this good news from God, and you would see it and partake of it. Whatever is your challenge, or whatever seems difficult that has defied all human solution and help, God is stepping in today, and He would orchestrate an unusual overflow in your life. You would see it and partake in it. You will not be cut off or deleted. As an oracle of God, I announce an overflowing abundance from the court of heaven for you. You would see it at your side soon. It will not be delayed any longer. Whenever you give thanks to God, you have connected to the unlimited source from heaven, and all things would flow ceaselessly. When Jesus was on earth, men, women, and children followed Him to hear the good news. At one of those outings and tours, they followed Him, and Jesus observed that they were tired and hungry. The Bible records that the men alone were about 5,000 in number. He asked them all to sit and asked His disciples what they had and could give the people. They replied that it would be difficult to feed all the people. Instead, Jesus should send them off to their homes. But He said no. They were able to get 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish from a little boy in their midst. Jesus collected it, looked up to heaven, and blessed it. The bread and fish was sufficient that remnants were gathered. But that was not where it ended. They were able to pack 12 baskets with the leftovers. This is an unusual miracle from God. In overflow from the bank, heaven was unleashed. Jesus connected to the bank, and all were filled to their satisfaction. God is about to use that small resources in your hands for your lifting. He would magnify that little resource in your hands. For that small resource in your hands, a lot shall be done and achieved. That small resource in your hands is your seed that would multiply and bear plenty. It is time for you to connect to the bank and courts of heaven and see how that little seed in your hands shall be magnified. Jesus did it and is still doing it today. Like the little boy, hand over the small you have in your hands to Him and watch Him multiply it. It is time to sow that small as a seed. This is the mystery of overflowing supply. You must sacrifice or offer the small seed you have to be connected to the fountain and bank of heaven. Your seed would die and another would come through it. It so happened for an old widow and her son in Zarephath, as recorded in 1 Kings 17. There was a famine in the land. She went to gather firewood to prepare food for her and her son. It was their last meal. The prophet Elijah appeared and told her to get a cup of water for him. And as she was going, he asked her to bake bread and bring it for him. She replied that truly she is the only child left with a handful of flour and little oil, which she wants to prepare for her and her son to eat and wait for death. He told her to go and do as he said, and there would be overflowing supply, in unusual supply. This was how it happened, as she did as he said. The source of flour did not run dry. The source of the oil did not run dry. The supply was unusual and steady. They had an overflow to keep eating till when the rain began to fall in the land again. This is what happens when you sow the little you have in your hand to God. Sow those little resources you have in your hand. Give out that little you have to God and the work of God, and watch and see how the unusual, overflowing supply would come. The little you have would not have achieved these, but because you have sown that small seed, that small resource, you have opened and connected to the fountain that causes abundance to flow from the throne room of God. Key into these and access your reams of unceasing, overflowing supply. Sow your seeds like the farmer. Sow your seeds now, and you would be amazed at the measure of flow that would come in from your harvest. Start doing it now. Start doing it today. God does not need your resources or seed. It is just a principle to get the gates of the bank of heaven open to you. It operates like the natural farm system on earth. It operates like our sowing and reaping system. You would need to sow a seed down to cause the bank of heaven to be open for you. Are you willing and ready to enter that season and ream of the unusual overflow of all things? Then you must sow that seed that is in your hand. Do this today, and the doorway of the bank of heaven would be opened for you. God does not create men and leave them to suffer. He does not make a thing and leave it at the mercy of the enemies. He is a covenant keeper. He is forever mindful of all that concerns you, your family, your life, and your destiny. Once He creates a thing, He gives life and His Spirit, and you are allowed to reign in that domain and influence. What happens most times is that we lose sight of what He has given us and where He has called us to, and begin to chase things that do not matter. We begin to go after mundane things. Welcome to the season of unusual overflow.